come up with a number that can be justified, not that you have to go to that, but that can be justified as to the impacts, right? And I guess what my frustration's been within the city, if I could say that, is that the county's charging $28,000 right now, right? Is that correct?
Yep.
And I've been trying to say for months, we ought to at least do 28. It's so far from what we can justify. We're not even approaching 87 with 28. And I'd like to get the 28 going.
But my understanding is, unless we have a study to justify even the 28,
but we have one
you
that
have that study
justifies
already from the
87.
previous study.
Here's another thing.
But he's saying they're disputing it.
Here's another thing.
Well, not that much.
Here's another thing. On this, and this is what the county attorney's office is probably going to present tomorrow night, is the state mandate has like 5 points. And legally, we can cover those 5 points. And I don't think that collecting $28,000 is even one of those points. And we can meet our affordable housing needs by covering these 5 points of the state mandate. So
I'll bring the line tomorrow that testifies it.
okay, please bring that. See, we're kind of in different areas right now as a county council, but we're going to get opinions from our county attorney's office. We're going to follow the state mandate, which are the 5 points. And if we can cover it under those 5 points, there's no need to go to the $87,000 on a report that's kind of skewed.
Mayor, so the study was conducted through our interlocal. What's it called?
MAG.
Through MAG, and so it can be used by the cities as well, because you guys help contribute to it through your MAG participation. And so the cities could use it for justification if you saw fit. And then what my thought about was, it's kind of what Ron had said too, is that the study allows us to justify up to a certain amount. So if the council doesn't, the county council, for example, doesn't agree and say, well, was it 15.6%?
That's what the study does.
That was the upper limit. And if the county council said, well, we don't think that they considered these certain variables in the formula correctly, and so we were to lower it to 10% or 8% or 12 or whatever, we feel like the study just allowed or gives us the justification to charge some of them. The question is, like Councilman Peterson said, is legally are we allowed to charge a fee in lieu to take care of our affordable housing deficit?
And you know, if you look at the formula, even 87, I'm guessing most developers, other than maybe 87 is easier, one unit is going to be worth more than 87, just build the unit. But they'd probably rather pay the 87 the units. You know, 1 out of 10. What units are selling for less than 87?
Well,
It's to build, how much it costs to build.
Like Swanson's piece, if they have so many RUs, calculate that, I think it worked out about, they would have to pay $80 million in affordable housing fees just for their development. That's the kind of number you're talking about.
Yeah, but that's over like a 20-year period or a 30-year period. I mean, that's build out of the whole subdivision.
there's no units that are selling for that amount. I mean, where can you buy anything for $87,000?
Well, but
Can't.
7 just subsidizes it to get it down to an affordable level.
Right.
So
So it's just a subsidy. It's
And
not.
I believe that the number will end up being somewhere between the 28 and the 85. We just haven't, as a group, being all cities and counties, fleshed out what that number
I think it
comes
somewhere
to.
between 0
But all of this
and
money
85.
goes into housing that will be deed restricted, is that correct?
No.
It goes into that committee that
I understand, yeah, that's what I meant.
Jeff's.
So when we were at that economic development thing, they talked about the future of housing in this area. They said there will be plenty of really low-income housing because we're, doing these kind of programs, like Summit's putting a ton of money into it. And he didn't really differentiate between the two counties. And there will always be plenty of high-end housing. But he said what we're going to lack is just the housing in the middle for regular people. And my concern for Heber City is we only have very few second homes. So when you add that 8 or 10,000, 2,800 to 8,000 onto all the houses, what does that do to the price of houses in the mid-range versus, and you're going to have a lot of deed restricted housing, but what are we doing to the mid-range? And I'm not saying I'm for or against it, I'm just saying we have to consider that because Heber City is a little different dynamic than the county where we don't have very many second homes. where
Except
they
in
can absorb
Red
that much
Ledges.
money and they don't blink back
Could-
an eye about it.
Could you have a graduated scale though, where if it was an affordable housing subdivision, there wasn't a fee? When there's a second home type subdivision like Red Ledges, there was a fee. And have a graduated scale at different levels of development.
Well, right now, nobody says they can build anything affordable without, because.
And maybe even the county does the same thing, I don't know.
Unless they get some help, I don't think. That's
But
what
see,
they're
there's
telling us.
There's also the back end that we haven't touched yet, is that, okay, let's say we agree on a number, and so this money gets contributed, and then this committee decides what to do with it. Then what we have to do, are we helping our teachers? Are we helping our police? Are we helping our sheriff deputies, our county and city employees? That's where I think we've got to really address it, because we can collect the fee, and if we're just going to continue to build assisted living, I don't know that we're really catching our need. We're not serving the purpose,
We
exactly.
discussed in the low-income housing board meeting last time, the idea of at least trying to build something that would literally have to have a public employment in the county to stay in or to get in. So it's being discussed, and that's where the pool of money comes. It's that board, right, that will decide what we do with that money.
The down payment assistance loan, which we have in place in the affordable housing, several years ago, it's still there. We had a group that we called essential employees, the very ones you just mentioned. And they kind of got a heads up on a forward nod. We emphasized that group for those down payment assistance loans. And over a period of time, we helped, I don't know what the numbers are, over a period of time, we helped quite a few. We kind of ran through the market and nobody, in 2017, we didn't have one application for down payment assistance loan. There's some coming back. We've done 3 or 4 or 5 this year so far, but through all of 2017. So we kind of exhausted that market, even though your chief says, well, our people can't get in. Well, there's some help for
Our
them.
sheriff says the
Qualify
same.
for that.
Well, our sheriff says the same thing.
Yeah,
And I just don't think we're serving the market that we think we're serving. And that's the only point, Kendall, is that I'm fine on defining a percentage and collecting the fee, but then on the back end, how we spend it and make sure that we are helping our essential employees. Because I think our percentages should be higher on the number of people that we're helping, that are what we define as essential employees.
If they get help with their down payment, why wouldn't our deputies be able to get in something?
Because there isn't a product
There's no
available.
supply,
There's no
yeah.
product.
Yeah, or we're not helping them enough because the cost of the houses are so high.
well, that's something we may need to look at.
So that's what I'm saying, is that if we've got to tweak it on the back end, if we're going to tweak it on the front end, because it has to fulfill the need to serve the purpose we're trying to serve.
Well, there's a development and they're still working on it down off Southfield Road, that will hopefully fill that need.
So I guess the point of the discussion, though, was really that the county can't continue to do this alone and that it only be voluntary in the cities.
But like Mike said, there are other ways of creating affordable
Right,
housing.
that's fine. And like Steve
And what
said,
if we
let's,
go a different direction?
yeah, but like Steve said, let's do it together. So if the city says, hey, this is our, but it has to have some mandatory component. I think that's the point.
Right, and I think because we haven't seen what you're doing, we haven't even really had the real conversation about it. And for us, the first step is to do this affordable housing plan required by the state legislature, where the planning commission analyzes and provides data and gives us all this information. Then the council decides what is going to be our policy, which of these choices are we going to implement, and then we can see what you guys come up with, I guess, because we haven't seen that. I guess
So it sounds like it's very important that we, in the county, as we get our presentation tomorrow and we decide kind of which direction we're going to go, we then need to be attendees to the Heber City Planning Commission just to help inform. And then they make the decision they're going to make. But we inform as much as possible. Here's why we do it this way. Here's why we'd like you to make the decision that's closer to what the county's doing. Or
I've got a thought, I could invite maybe Heber City to come tomorrow night and to listen to the presentation from our county attorney's office, to listen to the 5 points of the mandate, because $87,000, and that's the fee, but it's kind of covering almost 100% of our need, whereas there could be a fee there. I'm not saying there shouldn't be, but there could be a fee, that could be 1 point. Like the mayor says, we cover the other 5 areas, Then we can cover what Council Member Good had to say about helping the police and the school teachers and everybody else. If we just focus on the fee and try to build affordable housing, I think we're missing the point. There could be a fee, but what is that? It's not going to be $87,000 because that kind of covers the entire need. Let's listen tomorrow night to the county attorney. Let's listen to all the other options, and let's come up with a good plan that we can use possibly equally between Midway, Heber, and the county. Mayor, Tracy's got a comment.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to bring up one point, since we're in such a huge deficit on what we need, is we need to seriously look at not just the school teachers and who we're giving it to, but those school teachers can move. Those police officers can get another job in Summit County. There is no, there's not a lot of deed restricted product here. And the whole point is, if you're spending millions and millions of dollars on affordable housing, you have to keep that pool of properties within your county. And I'm hearing that some of that mortgage assistance and stuff, they get to make money off of the loans that we gave them. They get to sell it for market value when they decide to move and get another job. They're leaving our community and they took our profit.
There are restrictions on them doing that. They don't just 2 or 3 years and sell it and walk away.
Yeah, but the point is that you're giving away these houses and you're not keeping it within your affordable housing pool. So when you
it's deed restricted.
now, I don't know if they're all deed restricted.
Homes, but the loans that people grab, that does not make the home deed restricted, right? It's only the ones that were.
The down payment assistance on property.
Right, so that's what's been happening most.
Well, and the build your own, I don't think the self-help are not deed restricted. And so that's my point, is we're assuming these teachers and police officers are going to stay with us for 10, 15 years. Some of them don't. They get a better job, more money somewhere else, and they get to make the profit and walk away. And now we're having to fill that need again. So you're actually multiplying the need that you guys have.
We're deed restricted. I did 14 of these years ago, and we deed restricted those properties. So they would be deed restricted. We just have to come up with the terms. Are they going to be deed restricted forever, or for 5 years, or 10 years? Or while you're there, it's going to be deed restricted. And if you move, you don't get to make all that money off of there. So we can come up with some guidelines.
I know Summit County doesn't allow people to make that kind of profit at market value. That most of their stuff, if not all, is deed restricted, so that somebody else can buy it.
We should look at on the back end as we're
Type of
tweaking all the
inflation.
other stuff. I think that's all.
Well, I think what I was going to say, Mayor, is that it's a big problem. It's complicated. It's not as simple as it looks. But I think we ought to do it together, the two cities and the county, whatever we do. And I was frankly a little frustrated, as I wanted to have it on our agenda and talk about getting at least the 28 to be consistent with what the county currently is, to then hear that the Planning Commission is eventually going to discuss this. And don't even correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they've educated themselves on all of what's been going on. Not that they can or wouldn't before the 28th or anything else. But I think they need to understand the study that was done and the nexus and all this kind of stuff that the county's been doing. So if it's a matter of the county coming into the Planning Commission, or us all meeting together with the two planning and everybody.
So, let me just explain this real quick. So the Planning Commission is not taking any action that would preclude the city and county from working together. This is a plan. This is part of the plan that is required by the state code. We already have a plan. What this is doing is taking census data and updated population numbers, housing numbers, and projecting out a need into the future, just like the state code requires.
So is their purpose to come up to evaluate Heber's need? Or to decide whether it ought to be 78 or 28 or 0?
this has nothing to do with this is a plan, this is not the implementation tool. So you adopt the plan and you can still go back later and adopt an ordinance that you're talking about, the mandatory affordable housing fee, if you choose. This will not stop the council from doing that. What this does is it updates our plan so that we have current population and income and housing numbers. And
Which is just what the county's.
right.
Well, okay, but for the 28th meeting, maybe it's not a bad idea for the Affordable Housing Board, Kendall and Ron and Jeff and Rick and so forth to come to that meeting to help educate the planning commission if you think they don't
All
have
I'm
the
saying,
information.
Tony, is a lot of this stuff's already been kind of.
And then have Scott Lucas perhaps come present, or Sean Steeker, just to present on low-income housing as a
Well,
concept.
these numbers, these numbers were given to us by the state Department of Community and Culture, I think is who does the state affordable housing, I guess, I watch on local government. Last year we had Robert Kohutek in the fall came and visited our city council. And Robert, and I think, yeah, Kendall, I think you may have been in that meeting. And Robert Kohutek said, look, here's a PowerPoint with all the numbers that you need to put into your plan and to update your plan. And they had they had taken our plan and they rated it. And they gave us a pretty good grade on it. And they said, look, it's a really good grade, but if you want an A+ instead of an A-, take these numbers that we're going to give you in this PowerPoint and put them in your plan, and then come back to us in a year or whenever you're done, and we will give you money from the State Affordable Housing Fund, the Olin Walker Fund, that you can use to build affordable housing. And so that's the reason that we are working with the Planning Commission on doing that. It's not going to stop Scott Loomis, thank you. Scott Loomis's plan and ordinance that you've been working on at the county from being implemented here. All this is doing is getting our plan in place and getting it updated so that we meet the state statutes and so that we can qualify for potentially more state monies.
But if it's our desire, frankly, I'll say it this way, as a city council, to have our plan coordinated with the county plan, then all this discussion needs to move along with the county discussion.
Oh, sure.
Or we're going to be out here and the county's here, and how are we going to coordinate?
Absolutely, but what I'm hearing, I'm not hearing a consolidated county council saying that the county is going to even go there. I'm hearing conflicting, and I have over the past several months, I've heard conflicting things come from various county council members. And so I'm not so certain that even the county is convinced that they're going to do.
Well, we haven't finalized it yet.
Right. And I don't think our council has debated enough to really understand what the affordable housing fee entails. If I understand it correctly, the Nexus study basically has tied economic development as the nexus to the need for affordable housing. What that means is that we as a city will, and Wasatch County will be charging not only residential development an affordable housing fee, but we will also be charging commercial and industrial development an affordable housing fee.
Well,
I know, right. And it's something, that is a very different approach than what we've collectively done in the past. And I know that I've heard some county council members say that they're a little concerned about that, but I've also heard some of our city council. So I think we all need to get on the same page. Are we really going to go after that? I've even heard some concern about the validity of the study that's been done.
All those are valid points, Tony, but we were talking about earlier, I think we're all aware, that's why we mentioned the hotel may be different than a resident. It's about the impact of creating jobs that need low-income housing. It had nothing to do with economic development per se. It's that if you are going to have a bunch of kiddies in the house and need a school teacher's got to live somewhere. That's the nexus that I understand. It's how many low-income housing needs is your development create. That's why what hotel, they don't have any school kids, but they have low-income workers, right? They have maids that can't afford to live here, so they're gonna bust their maids in every morning from I don't know where. So that's the kind of things that the Nexus, I think, if I understood it.
So I think the next steps that we take, tomorrow the county council, we have it on our agenda, we'll have some presentation. We invite the city council, mayor to attend the meeting, Tony, to attend the meeting. Anybody that you guys can inform as far as planning commission. Come to the meeting tomorrow, then we'll have a further discussion about it. If it's on for the planning commission on the 28th, let's kind of brainstorm about how to approach that moving forward. And
What time tomorrow during the meeting do you think they could be involved?
Last time on the agenda,
Yeah,
So 5:30?
probably somewhere in there.
we gotta do another meeting at 6, so.
I agree with Councilman Member Good. One thing I want to add to that is, let's remember the 5 points of the state statute and not try to go out and create anything and have a lot of government overreach and create our own programs. Let's go with what's recommended and not try to feel like we have to go and create all these other things and make it really complicated. I think we follow the mandate, listen to our county attorney's office, have the city come and participate and listen. We should be able to come up with something.
And I want to add to that. So in the cities, the state legislature has said that we have to do this plan that the planning commission is doing. And we're required to, there's 7 things that they're required to consider. And it's things like rezone for densities, facilitate the rehabilitation and expansion of infrastructure, encourage rehabilitation of uninhabitable housing stock, consider general fund subsidies to waive construction fees. So there's all these things in here, and we're only talking about a fee in lieu or putting it on the developers. And I know everyone's concerned about growth, but we have to, on the Wasatch Front, there's this whole effort, and they're talking about all these things. And I think the legislature is, like they just did with the house homelessness. We don't want the legislature to come back and take away our right to decide on our land use or charge us money and claim that we don't have the required whatever. So that's why we have to follow this
Well,
plan.
I think we just gotta build enough houses and eventually some of those will be affordable anyway.
That's what she's saying, I don't know.
Somebody proposed that. So just to share maybe with the council, because certainly those of us, we had an issue come before our city council last meeting. Scott Loomis has a subdivision, Southfield Road, he come and wanted to get approval for it. It's on its table because his development, in order to make it affordable according to him, has given us streets that are narrower than we require. The issues of where do we put the snow and all those kinds of things came out during our meeting, and he made the statement, well, then I can't do affordable housing. So, have we got to look at our ordinances or how we remove street, snow in the winter, all those kind of things? If that's what he's saying, it has to be to make it affordable. So, even this affordable housing kind of guru is trying to get a development that doesn't fit our city code. So there's a lot of things to look at.
I was just going to ask Tony, on the 28th, it sounds like your affordable housing discussion will be an update to the general plan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's not actually code, you're just amending the general.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so we have these 11 items, 10 of which are before the Planning Commission on this upcoming meeting, and the Affordable Housing Plan is on the 28th, but the council will have to consider those items as well as whatever work we happen to work with the county. As far as the 3 on top, those are still not, I guess the county needs to still consider whether they're okay with those 3 items on the top. Is that where we are?
Well, those are brand new to us tonight.
Yeah, because they were taken off at the staff level, so we brought them back.
But I thought we had consensus on, at least the last one.
Well, there is consensus on everything, it's just what that affordable housing ordinance looks like is not agreed on.
I think there was kind of a mixed consensus down in Wasatch View, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess we haven't talked about it.
Yeah.
UDOT highway access, you moving forward with that?
That's actually going to be on our city council agenda next week. UDOT has prepared an agreement. We met with
Is it
Doug.
the same one that?
Yep, identical, yeah. And so if the council is ready for acting on that, the county will see that coming back to you in the next few weeks.
So coming back all to the council?
Well, so what we have to do is, we will have the Heber City Council look at it. If they're okay with it, then we will give it back to Doug, who will then, basically the question goes to the county council, we're just adding this Heber City as a signature, are you okay with it? And if you are, then we authorize a signature between the two groups and we send it back to UDOT, they print it up and we sign it.
I think given your proposed or potential annexation boundary, you need to look, we not only have a Highway 40, but we have a Highway 32.
And so,
And it's that very access agreement that if you follow it, it's part of that very access agreement that I was talking about on the 18th when I was referring that Sorenson doesn't have access to get out of each development.
right.
Short of coming down Coyote Lane.
So UDOT will not allow us to become part of the agreement until we have some skin in the game. And so we, as a city, can become a party to the Highway 40 agreement, but we cannot yet.
Because of your
Because
in the city.
because it's not. Yeah, exactly. We don't have anything.
The policy doesn't go that far.
Even though it goes clear out to the junction, you still can.
UDOT has said, look, in order for you to become a signature on this, you've got to actually have some of your city touching that highway. And
Which you do, yeah.
Which we do on Highway 40. But so the proposal is that we immediately become a party to the Highway 40 agreement all the way up to River Road. And then once, if the city then gets an annexation petition that includes Highway 32, that immediately at that point, the city then starts the process to become a signature on that agreement.
Well, I would hope you'd have everything ready, sort of, as soon as you get skin in the game, you're right there.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, as we've discussed it, I mean, we got to vote, I understand that, but as we talked about it and actually asked at this time forward, with this discussion, but I didn't see any dissension other than just let's get on to it. Right?
I don't perceive the county would be opposed to you being a signatory of that agreement. I don't know why we would. And the 32 would either, if you go that way.
Okay, we've covered everything.
I think so.
Slow? No,